उन सबको अगर ऐड कर दें वी वुड से इट वुड बी 70 to 80, एक ऐसा फिगर जिस पे हम लोग अग्री करते हैं. एंड बिसाइड्स ये इम्पोर्टेंट बात है जो हम बार बार भूल जाते हैं, दिस इज नॉट जस्ट वन विलेज जहाँ 40 या 50 औरतें होंगी. These are two villages. Punan and Punan. तो almost 80 women were there.
हमने एक स्टीरियोटाइप क्रिएट किया है जो कुनन पोशपरा के लोग हैं या पर्टिकुलरली कुनन पोशपरा की औरतें हैं. नो डाउट अगर आप इसको एक साइको सोशल पर्सपेक्टिव से देखेंगे तो ऑब्वियसली देयर इज ह्यूज ट्रॉमा एसोसिएटेड विद द सर्वाइवर्स जो कि सर्वाइवर्स हैं, एंड यू कैन नॉट ऑब्वियसली से कि इट्स वेरी नॉर्मल टू हैव दैट ट्रॉमा. बट एक चीज़ जिसको हमने
Welcome to SpeakOut Community Talks. Berlin is a global city. Here we see every day many people struggling for the equal rights. Activists, they are engaged in different areas where they are struggling for the environment, for the migration rights, and there are many other topics to address, and they are important for the activists to talk about. Today in our studio we have possibility with our two guests to discuss in which area particularly the activists are working in Berlin, and which reforms do we demand from the government. I welcome Katharina Marg. She's a representative of a left party in Germany, in Berlin, and Ali-Raza Syed, who is founder of Kashmir Council EU, and he came especially from Brussels to take part in our talk show. Welcome, Ali-Raza Syed. Katharina, I'm going to start with you. You are engaged in political activities and in many street actions in Berlin. I want to know what are the specific areas where the activists are working in Berlin and struggling for their rights.
Yeah, I don't see many limitations for an activist. If you have a goal, if you have an idea, if you have a utopian idea of a better world, I think whatever you can imagine is possible. So I'm with the Left Party in Germany. I joined before the not the last election, but the one before, to support the cause of the Left Party for the election. And ever since then, I've been very active, especially in my neighborhood. So we try to talk to the people. We try to organize events or viewings. We discuss books. We can print flyers, and also I was active with the student group at the university, for example. There we do the same. An activist can organize demonstrations and try to find all the different people working on one cause, bring them together to form political pressure and to communicate it, to inform the people, and then change the laws and maybe how people think.
Yeah, this is beauty in Berlin, that you see people with different backgrounds and with their different engagements, how they are concerned with the political chaos, what's happening here, and how they are in the struggle to put pressure on the government for these reforms, especially the students, many migrants, and the local activists here. Ali-Raza Syed, you are in Brussels, and you founded your organization. Can you please tell us more about your work, what for you are working with European Parliament and your area of work?
Thank you for giving me the time to participate in this discussion. Normally, the Kashmir Council EU was formed 9 years ago. The objective was to raise awareness in European Union, especially in the European Parliament, and in European public as well. Because I am from Kashmir, and my region or my people, they are suffering for the last 70 years. And that was my objective. How can I help my people to end their suffering? Because for 70 years they are suffering a lot. And nobody in international community coming to their help or to try to solve the issue. And especially the media, European media or international media, is not giving the space as they should give us, as they are giving in for Middle East or Africa or for other part of the world, other conflicts. The Kashmir conflict is a humanitarian issue. It is not a issue of land or something. It's 13 million people's issue. And up to now, there are almost 100,000 people have been killed for last 28 years. There are 10,000 people, they are disappeared. And the rape, especially the rape is used as a weapon of war in that conflict also, as it is used in other part of the world in conflict. The Kashmir is also the victim of this case.
So, we saw this year you organized one event on International Women's Day in European Parliament, and there was also introduction to a book for the village. Can you please tell us more about that book, what it's about, and what's the story behind?
This is the book called Do You Remember Kunan Pospora? The Kunan Pospora, there are two villages in Kashmir. One is Kunan and the other is Pospora. In these two villages, in 1991, 23rd of February, the night between 23rd and 24th of February, the security forces, they came to the village and they asked the men and the male and the female to separate them. And they took the men out, and then they gang raped 31 women, aged from 13 to 60. And for last 28 years, these girls, the victims, they were trying to get the justice, but the justice was denied for them. Why? Because the security forces, they were protected by the immunity was given to them by a law called Public Safety Act, which is only implemented in Kashmir, not in other part of the India, only in Kashmir. And those girls who wrote this book in 2012, they got encouragement after a medical student girl was raped in New Delhi, and there was outrage. The people came out, millions of people came out against that rape. And then those girls, they says, okay, now it's time that we come out also to tell our story. And then they wrote this book about what happened 28 years ago.
So it includes the interviews of the victims from that village?
Yes, interview and all the details of the victims and who were the people who were involved. There was, I can read it here. On a cold February night in 1991, a group of soldiers and officers of the Indian Army pushed their way into two villages in Kashmir, seeking out militants assumed to be hiding there. They pulled the men out of their homes and subjected many to torture and the women to rape. According to the village accounts, large number of women were raped. 21 years later, in 2012, The rape and murder of a young medical student in Delhi galvanized a protest movement so widespread and deep that it reached all corners of the world. In Kashmir, a group of young women, all in their 20s, were inspired to reopen the Kunan Postpura case. So that's why the case was reopened. They went to the justice, and it's still the culprits were not punished or not condemned by the court yet. But they are struggling that the justice should be done with these.
Yeah, our viewers, you can watch the name of this book on television screen, and this book is available. You can buy this book, and there are names and all details of the victims. I'm coming back to you, Katharina. What activists, when we are talking about Germany is one of the leading country, best in human rights, and unfortunately, in German politics, this Kashmir issue is not being discussed. It's not the first interest to discuss about this Kashmir politics. But at the same time, is there a space that we can highlight this issue of raping the women in war areas and force our government to have an implementation of on existing laws?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's necessary to always raise the issue, and I'm very thankful that you provide this platform to talk about it right now, and that you have the courage to do it and to find people to support your cause. I think from any scale, from the neighborhoods, you can make events to talk about the book and what happened and possibilities to deal with the fight for justice. I mean, Germany, of course, has a history as well with genocide and war crimes in other countries, which I'm afraid most of them have never really legally been solved, and the victims didn't get either money or appreciation only after they died, and sometimes even the people who committed the crimes, they got pensions. But however, I think it's very, very important to push the issue and not give up, and to use the ways, the public media, for example, the radio, to always address the issue. And I think if you continue doing it and find people to support you, you have really good chances right now.
We heard many stories. We heard many war crimes. The military, army, they do the war crimes. We hear different stories of war crimes, and especially in the countries where Germany is also part of the alliance who are fighting against terrorism. How it comes that a civilized society like Germany, they allow the companies like Rheinmetall to produce the weapon and export to the world? Is it not destruction? And what's the position of left party on it?
Yeah, I think when you say civilized, you make the assumptions that other communities are not civilized, but I think that's also these words have often been a way to support war with the words and with the ideology ever since colonialization, for example. But to come back to your question, yes, Rheinmetall is a German company, and even if they use, there's been a really good documentary now by the public TV from the 15th of January 2018. It's still available for 1 year in the online. You can watch it, and the journalists did a really good job together with parliamentarians and journalists from Italy and South Africa, other countries where Rheinmetall, Rheinmetall is using to get around laws, because actually from the German law, they wouldn't be allowed to export weapons to countries in conflict, but they use in other companies, and so they kind of outsource the product, take it to Italy, and then when the Italian parliamentarians are asking about the issue, the minister said she can't answer because it's a German company. And then again, when we look to regions like Yemen, where war is fought right now, and according to the UN, one of the largest humanitarian catastrophes is about to happen from hunger and diseases like the cholera. Rheinmetall and Germany are actually providing all of the conflict parties with the weapons. For example, Saudi Arabia, where they exported a whole factory for weapons through South Africa. And in South Africa it would also be illegal, but somehow they are always, by going to another country, they always find ways to avoid the laws. But we, as activists and people who want to fight for human rights, we also need to use the international networks and law systems to fight them in the same scale.
So, do you think this documentary on this public TV will raise awareness in public, and this thing will change the mind for the people, and in the next elections people can decide? Do you see all this thing in that scenario, that left party should really talk about this weapon export thing and raise the public awareness? Because at the end it's vote who can change. It's a democratic society, it's vote which can change it. No? Right.
Yes, absolutely, and it did raise awareness. Just now I read that several organizations got together and filed a lawsuit against Rheinmetall already. So I think if the media and civil society activists and sometimes politics and parliamentarians work together, it can be very effective. And the more you talk about it, of course, you raise more awareness. And I think most of the people, if you think about it, how can you be pro-war? I think it's a very small minority who has an interest in selling weapons and promoting wars. But if people in elections would actually make the effort and reflect on those issues which would be best for their personal interest, I think.
Yeah, definitely civil society has this power to change anything with the time. With the right strategy, with the effort, civil society can change anything. Ali-Raza, Syed, in Kashmir, civil society, how strong is the civil society in Kashmir when we are talking about the issues like raping the whole village, and the recent incident which happened in Kashmir when the soldiers was reported on media that soldiers they raped 8 years girl till death, and so what civil society is doing in Kashmir?
I think the civil society is playing that role. Their role is increasing day by day. The role which they played 25 years ago, it was very minimum role, but now, as there is the social media and the other tools are available for the public, so the civil society is playing a very important role in, and that's why today it was possible to highlight these type of issues. And about the Asifa, the 8-year-old girl, which was raped by more than 10 people for 5 days, and then she was killed with stone on, hitting the stone on her head, and her dead body was found after 7 days after her death. And then initially, when the report came, the issue came out, there were the police officers and some other officials from the Jammu region. They were involved, and they held this girl for 5 days in a temple. There they were raping every day. When the case was brought against those people, I was just watching their case when the police wanted to introduce the case, to register the case. Some politicians from BJP, the government officials who are in the government, they came in favor of the accused, and they tried to stop the police to register the case. It was a big issue. Then on social media, when it came to as a viral, they were obliged to, so they registered the case. Now the case is in the court, and the court has decided not to hold the process in Jammu because they were threatened by those accused. They are very powerful, the politicians and the security forces people. That's why the case is now not in Jammu and Kashmir, but it's in India. Is going to be held in coming weeks. But still, why it's happened now? Because 25 years ago, when those girls were raped or the other people were raped, it is just a drop in the ocean. There are a lot of other cases which we have documented. We have a report of 800 pages, which was written by the civil society in Jammu and Kashmir, and which you can find it on the internet also. It's called Structure of Violence. And that report, each victim and each person who committed the crime is registered there. So everything is documented. But why it happens now? Because there was not a single person who was punished for these crimes, because they are protected by the special law in Jammu and Kashmir, the Public Safety Act. And until and unless these draconian laws are withdrawn, these type of cases will happen again. But the people of Jammu and Kashmir, they are trying and they are struggling first of all, to end the draconian law and to demilitarize this zone. And the military should go into the barracks, not stay in the street, because 700,000 troops for 6 million people, it's too much. Every 7-8 person, there is one soldier. And these people who are, they want to use all the force available in their possession to crush the aspiration of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. They want their rights. I mean, they are not asking something special. They are asking to live in peace, to have the same rights as the other human beings have in the world.
So demilitarization is the first demand of the Kashmiris,
Yes.
that so the civil society can grow and have like more effective role in the society, in the world, and to connect with the other civil societies in the world.
Yeah, then you can create an atmosphere. If there is, demilitarization, the atmosphere you can create where the people can talk each other, and we can find some solutions of these issues. And unless you have all the time the military forces are there and they are killing every day. Last week there 20 people were killed. 2,000 people were injured in April and in May. So in that atmosphere, you cannot have, a peaceful life. Or
We retake this. We start from here. Yeah. If somebody's found guilty and it's proved by court, still there are not concrete actions to punish them. You said that people are there getting pensions here, and they had been not trialed. There were no punishments for them. So what should be the strategy from the activists? How we can have a better development? We are talking again about the existing law. There is a punishment in the law, but it's not applicable. So what should be the next strategy from the activists, from us, that government should have the implementation of this law, and the people who commit these acts, inhuman acts, they must be punished? What should be the strategy from the activists, and how we can reach that?
Well, the people I talked about who were committing war crimes were in the Second World War, and for example, my mom worked at the administration, and she knew about the pensions they got, or their widows. Obviously, lawyers, journalists, and organizations were trying to make transparent and to find the people actually in other parts of the world. And some they found in recent years, and they were really old, but some still got punished. I think now it was especially important, since we had this experience, to now find strategies to deal as a civil society and a state with the newly uprising fascism, which committed these crimes in the Second World War by taking humanity from people to victim, to later making it easier to hurt them and cause violence and all those crimes. Now it's important to, since it's rising again everywhere in Europe, to stand against it and be strong as a civil society for humanitarian causes, and also for the crimes committed, to build trauma work, to work with the trauma that's been there, and to develop peace, an education for peace and a peaceful economy as well, where we don't rely on producing and exporting weapons, and where the universities don't have to rely on getting money for military science and supporting war, but rather shifted to the education of teachers and security forces to found a more peaceful way of living together and having methods for it.
To empower the civil society, have a better infrastructure for health and education, these should be the preferences of the government, not just to produce and export the weapon which leads to the destruction of the world. This is, I think, is the basic need what everyone needs, and that's what we are struggling for. As a SpeakOut community, we contribute with our platform to raise the public awareness and to put the pressure on the government that for a peaceful world, producing and exporting the weapon is not a solution, but to have a better civil society with better health and education system. We see us soon with the new topic and with the new guest, and you can visit our website and the Facebook page. You can follow us on Facebook page. You can see on the television screen, and we see us next time. Bye-bye.